Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Brazilian Grand Prix and the final Tier 3 race of our 10th season here at MRC. The Interlagos circuit is quite unique, being one of the only anti-clockwise circuits on the calendar. It's also one of the shorter circuits at 2.677 miles. Don't let this fool you though, it's a very fast and furious circuit. It is 15 turns, many of them being the sweep infield section. These require quite a lot of grip. But don't go too high on your downforce because there is a massive straight and you will get absolutely swamped if you do. The other unique factor about this circuit is the starting grid is actually on an incline, which can make the launch more tricky than normal. Hopefully our drivers will cope with this. So the Drivers' Championship wrapped up last week. The king of the bottle jobs taking his first crown. Congratulations to Connor, I hope it's finally sunk in. However, second and third positions are still available. Jackster currently sits in second with 104 points. Rob Smith is in third with 96 points. Unfortunately he's not racing tonight, so he could lose that. Melvin in fourth with 89. Night Shadow in fifth with 79. Lots to play for. Also the Constructors' Championship is still there for the taking as well. Red Bull have a 37 point lead over Mercedes, with Aston a further 20 back. Right on their rear is McLaren, just 1 point behind them. So, joining me in the comms box this evening, it's the man of the magic lamp. Ask nicely, he may grant you 3 wishes. It's none other than Rob Atwood. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you? Looking forward to this one?
Yeah, I always love a good finale, I've got to admit. Especially when yours is over and you're not having to suffer it.
Yeah, precisely. I kind of like this part of the season. Like, you know, like in the real life F1 where Max had won and it was all tied up past Japan. Just because it's all tied up doesn't mean you can't get some sort of fun racing. And I think now, like, the gloves are off, aren't they? There's no team orders, there'll be no politics. Everybody will just want to get one last win on this game and then yeet it out of existence so we can move on to F1 23 and a new season which starts very, very soon. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what people can do in this last chance here at Brazil.
Yeah, it's always fun is the last race of the season, especially if the championship's over. Because like you say, no stress, everybody wants to win, and this is such an unpredictable circuit for results as well.
It is. It's one of my favourites, actually. It's one where I think I've always gone well, and you always get some good racing, both in the real life and here. It's one where you can see a lot of DRS trains as well, so really interested to see what happens tonight.
And we've just had word that it's a wet race.
Ooh,
so that'll make it very interesting. I'm going to jump on board with Night Shadow for a flying lap. So he brakes about the 50, hooks it in nice and tight for 1, cut 2 slightly but not too much. Would want to stay a little bit tighter for 3, but you can take many lines there. DRS flap should be wide open on the way down to 4. You want to brake just before the 100, tuck it in nice and tight. Definitely don't be doing a Max Verstappen there. Coming around 5 up the hill. This one is a very tricky corner. You can lose the back end so easily, especially with it being a double apex. Heavy on the brakes into the infield section. Again, it's a bit up and down, very tricky on traction, but he seems to be nailing it quite well. So the final right-hander of the circuit really sets you up for this run down to the final proper corner anyway. Pick your braking point, hook it in nicely. You got quite a good apex there as well, and now just plant your foot all the way to the line. DRS is going to kick in at this overhead here. There we go, flap wide open, hook it nice and tight for the shortest line, and our first time is a 108.886. That is actually a really, really good lap as well.
Yeah, that's super speedy. Look at the difference between him and Scottish Ninja in second. That's 3 seconds. And Night Shadow was P2 in the Tier 2 race on Monday night. So we know he's got a bit of pace around here. Also, we all know how skinny Gav likes to run his wings. He went across that line at 205 miles per hour. I wonder if we're going to see anybody match that kind of speed tonight.
Yeah, it was a mental lap, especially for an opener as well. I mean, I think the pole was at a 106.3 or something. 108.6, sorry.
Yeah,
it wasn't right. Massively quicker than what Gav has actually just put in now.
It's not, and for him to have that as a banker lap, look at that. Jackster, we all know how quick he is. He's still 0.4 off the off the mark. I think Gav,
Yeah, I
of
mean,
course, is running I can't remember where he's in the championship, about third or fourth, but yeah, he might be a contender.
Jackster's second.
Right, okay. But Gav is in third or fourth, isn't he? Tier 3. So
Fifth, I think, actually.
fifth, okay. So it might be one. So he's definitely staying in Tier 3 next season. He might be one to watch out for the championship if he keeps up that kind of form into F1.
I mean, if he
23.
wins tonight, he could actually take second if Jackster doesn't score.
Oh, goodness me.
It would go to count back, but obviously Gav would win on the beauty of having 2 wins to Jackster's 1.
Yeah.
But I think he's highly likely to take third with a very good result tonight.
Well, we will.
Especially with missing Rob Smith. The only one who can really put a scupper on his night is Melvin.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a shame that Rob Smith can't compete. He's had a wonderful season and, yeah, fully deserves to give himself a pat on the back. We've seen lots of good performances this season, actually, and particularly, like you mentioned in the intro, Connor, it's nice to have that championship finally under his belt. That's another trophy you'll be seeing on the Discord.
Yep.
More and more people with trophies against their name now, feeling left out.
It was twice the bridesmaid, now he's finally made the bride.
Yeah.
I mean, it is tough missing out on them.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk to, I don't know if Chris Bailey is in the YouTube chat, but if you want to talk about being the bridesmaid, that's somebody who has suffered a little bit. I think maybe Bailey's one mistake was having that conversation with Stephen Gerrard right before the last race, wasn't it? Just him saying, we will not let this slip. And all of a sudden, seemed to go to pot. But hey-ho, there's always next season, and I think there's a lot going on. Oh, goodness me, sorry, I was on board with Baby Hornet, who's just absolutely out of the pit lane, had a moment.
That's an unusual place to have a moment.
Well, the game has glitched him out into there, so he lost it coming out of the pit, and then it's just put him right on the apex of the centre S's, so fingers crossed he won't cause too much disruption to anybody's laps.
Connor's bailed back into the pit. I believe he's planning on starting at the back tonight. Try and work his way through a little bit.
Yeah, well, he's been quick all season, and this is a track where you can work your way through the field a little bit. As I said, DRS train's super important around here. He'll want to make sure that he can keep up with the rest and he can keep bridging those gaps, because if you don't, you can lose so much time on that back straight if you're not, if you don't have the little boost to DRS.
Problem is, if you get caught in a DRS train, you tend to be stuck in it for lap after lap after lap.
Yeah, it tests your patience, this circuit, and it's one where you've got to be really observant of other people's braking points, be aware of the car in front of you, where they're going to go, and in particularly manage your ERS. You'll see a lot of flashing red lights tonight, I think, as people spend as much as they can.
Oh, we certainly will. I mean, we know this from Tier 2. It was red light galore, because I was stuck in a DRS train for ages. And it was like, everybody's flashing, so I was trying to reserve it for a couple of laps to give me a decent run, but because of the train, you just couldn't get past them.
Yeah, and it's hard to conserve. There's sort of certain places that you really want to spend it. I find that just after the centre S's, if you can get a better exit than the person in front, that's where you can spend it, and that's when you see the majority of overtakes. You can see a couple into turn 1, but I don't think it's worth it just because they can get you straight back just before turn 4.
Oh, definitely. Because it's not a double detection, it's different detection points for the DRS zones, so you've really got to be careful with that one.
Precisely. Oh, Ghost Rider with an excellent lap there, up into P2 with a 109.1. Brilliant from the Frenchman. He's been good this season, hasn't he?
He has. I think Ghost Rider and Rob Smith especially are going to be ones to watch next season.
Well, you know, Ghost Rider's put in the time. I know he, wants to put in the wet weather practices as well. He's been very kind setting those up for us as well. So, yeah, it's people who can turn up to practice all the time, willing to put in the time and effort, and it's lovely to see that rewarded with a P2 on track at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's picked up a win recently as well, if I'm not much mistaken.
Let me just check. Yes, he got. Yeah, he won in the last race, actually. He won at Silverstone, so he's in a good bit of form.
Oh, he's been dropped to third because B17's just popped in a 1090 and spun it at the centre S's on his cool-down lap.
Well,
very easy place to spin there.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at where the two Mercedes are placed at the moment. Second and fourth. They're, 38 points behind? 37 points behind in the Constructors. The Red Bulls, like you say, Baby Hornet is out. after having that little accident. Connor, it appears, is also out. So
He's retired himself in the pit because he wants to work from the back.
yeah, but that's the Red Bulls could be throwing away a chance of a constructors' championship if they're not, on the ball. Because these Mercedes boys, if they finish in those positions up top, they are going to be challenging and maybe overtaking Red Bull at this rate.
I did warn him of this because he's been planning it since he won last week. He said it on party because obviously I was his teammate last week to try and help him out a bit. We hoped to wrap up the constructors for him, but the race didn't go to plan for myself anyway. So I told him, do not try the last to first. You need the points. And he's just gone and done it anyway.
Well, that's pride always comes before a fall, doesn't it? Let's see what happens tonight.
Oh, it certainly does. I remember the last time he tried this challenge in Season 8. Myself, Baby Hornet and Connor all tried it in the final race.
What did any of you end up winning, or did it all go wrong for all three of you?
I was definitely on the podium. I can't remember if I won it or not. Neither of the other two had a good race.
It's a dangerous. Maybe around this track it's not so bad. Like we've seen in real life, right? Lewis Hamilton did a real life last to first challenge. It took him a sprint race and a feature race, but he did it. And there's loads of chances for overtaking around here. So it's not a Monaco. It's not it's not one of these places where you are going to get caught. We have discussed the dangers of a DRS train though. And I do think if he's up against somebody like Gav, who we suspect is running a very skinny wing setup, if you can't pass on the straights, then you've got to do it in the corners. And gosh, racing side by side in that technical middle sector, it's a buttock clenching experience. I don't know if you've ever done it before, but it really doesn't feel very nice, does it?
No, it's very hairy, is this track, if you're not careful.
I remember one of my first experiences here. There was a young German who had just joined the Discord server, Saviour I think his name was, and it's when I was a little bit quicker and he decided to go side by side with me through the middle sector. We probably went from about turn 4 until the last corner of the straight, and it was some of the best and cleanest racing I've ever had. It is a lot of fun, but you really have to put a lot of trust in that car beside you if you're going to do it through it. And it's just a testament to how good Saviour was on the night and on his debut that he made that work.
Well, Saviour really does like to make people sweat.
Does.
And when I reserved Tier 1 on Monday, I was fed up of seeing his AlphaTauri, because I was either seeing his or seeing Brave's. At one point I pitted, came out ahead of both of them and nearly got swamped by the pair of them on my outlap. Because the pit strategy had worked to get me ahead, but then I'm trying to warm up while they're warm.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm getting swamped here.
It is a challenge. At the moment, I'm on board with Gav, who looks to be on another quick lap. He did go purple in the first sector. Melvin's just had a bit of fast lap for number 2. I wonder if Gav is going to improve on that first lap. You'd imagine track conditions a little bit more in his favour now, but he still has to put that time down.
Yeah, it's definitely not a track that ramps overly well. Not as noticeable as some tracks. But all tracks do evolve a little bit, but this is definitely not one of the biggest ones for it.
Yeah, his map's just gone purple in Sector 2, so could we see that time of 1.88 going down any more as he crosses the line? Oh,
1.86.
That's pretty darn quick. That is, yeah, like you say, that's Tier 2 times. That's insane.
I think that may have taken pole in Tier 2.
Yeah.
And we seem to have a McLaren. A little bit stranded.
That is, I don't know if he's done the same as what happened to Baby Hornet when they were coming out the pits. It's a very odd place for single track to be. Of course, Martin with a change of name now, single track Red 5. The Red 5, of course, standing for his favourite driver, is doing a bit of research looking at all the drivers who have had number 5 on their car. I can only assume it's for his favourite Brazilian driver, Nelson Piquet, who I think he really agrees with some of the views that he has, particularly on Lewis Hamilton. So, yeah, I think that's probably... Sorry? What? Is it, do you not think it is?
No, considering it says Red 5.
Oh, it's probably... Yeah, okay. Nigel Mansell, that makes more sense. Okay, no, I thought it was 5 for just the Brazilians here, because Emerson Fittipaldi, of course, has had number 5 on his car.
Martin's just popped up in the Discord. It sounds like his... YouTube, sorry, it sounds like he's chucked him through the pit wall.
Oh, yeah.
So that very same glitch that you saw.
Yep, it is a shame.
And I've just realised I named the stream wrong.
It's fine. Everybody knows it isn't MRC-X. It's cool.
I've got it. Oh, I'll have to change that later. But apparently you're off the Christmas card list after that comment.
I knew it when I said it. I apologise, Martin. I know that he's very excited. Of course, F1 23 doesn't have Sebastian Vettel in it, which means number 5 is available for the first time. And I think he's going to be putting that on the front of his car this season. I'm
putting it on mine as well. Mansell was one of my all-time greats, so I'm quite happy to have it as well. I'm not going to be changing my PlayStation name to have Red 5 on it, but I'm going to have number 5 on my car.
Some of us are just more committed than others, and I think Martin has gone that extra mile.
He has, definitely. And I don't blame him. Mansell was one of the legends.
He was. No quite driver like him. I don't think we'll see his like again coming into the sport at quite a ripe old age. You tend to see younger drivers given their chance, and if you don't come in at about 20, then you're out, you're on the scrap heap, you're doing something in endurance racing or something like that. But yeah, for him to come in so late and show such a knowledge for the car and then be so consistent for so many years, I think that's why he was such a great character. And that footage of the British Grand Prix, where everybody, you can see the love and the outpouring of love everybody had for him swamping the track. I think it's one of the best moments.
Mansell Mania.
Yeah.
It's the then equivalent of what we get with Lewis Hamilton these days, really.
Yes, it is, but it is mad to see everybody swamp the track. Like, you can't do it nowadays. Just you can't imagine like Lewis Hamilton very slowly going through the crowd. It's not going to happen again in our lifetime, so I think we do have to save a little YouTube moments like that.
It's got to be said though, the British fans are probably some of the most mental in the world.
They are. I think the Dutch are giving them a run for the money as well, with their support of Max Verstappen and the orange flares that are going around. Their support is, I think it's a really good idea to add Zandvoort to the calendar, because it's absolutely mad atmosphere, and they go to places like Spa and Austria as well. It's been a real delight to have them in the sport too.
Oh, do you remember a couple of years ago, I think it was 2021, when they actually changed all their 30 road signs to 33?
Yes, I did.
That's how mental the Dutch fans are.
That was very, very funny. Supermax is available on YouTube if you want to listen to that anthem as well. It's a bop.
It's certainly something.
I'm bored with seeing who's on a lap. We're getting to squeaky bum time, aren't we, at the end of Q3? Everybody with their last few laps to get it right.
Let's have a quick look at Boothie. We ain't seen much of the Haas tonight.
Yeah, he was up 0.4 seconds in Sector 1, so he's got an awful lot of time to make up. That would put him up into, gosh, maybe P3 if he's able to maintain that. So let's see what he's able to achieve. A couple of yellow flags in front of him. Fingers crossed there won't be too much traffic.
Red Car Rambo retired at coming out of the centre S's. Yeah. He's either had a moment or he's had a pit lane issue, but I think it might be a moment because he was on track. And Boothie seems to still be up, so we'll see where he finishes. The lone Haas tonight.
Yeah, it's a shame we haven't quite got full lobby in here, but you do what you must. Haas not in the Constructors' Championship, and that's across the line up into P5. Very good lap there.
He lost a lot of his time in the end then. Way!
Yeah. And retired and out. At least that's a quick way to get back to your pit box.
I'm going to have a lap with Ghost Rider, who's just starting one. Because a lot of the other contenders seem to have already finished laps.
Yeah, Ghost Rider really, he was cutting that fine, wasn't he? We've now into checkered flag time, and he was across the line with about 10 seconds to spare.
I hope he's got a lot in the second and third sectors, because he's 2/10 down in the first.
It's tough. There was a lot of sort of debris and stuff on track. You were talking about how hard it is to rubber up these tyres, and it's not necessarily a track that rubbers in. We haven't seen a lot of people drastically improve their time. I just realised that Scratch Charisma is up into third place though, so that's worth a mention. Let's see what it says as he comes across. He's about to come across for his Sector 2 time now. Is he up? Does he fancy a chance of going any quicker?
He's up. 2/10.
2/10. This could
He's
move
gained
him up.
4/10, so if he hadn't missed that first sector, he would have been on for an absolute stonker here.
This could be pretty impressive. I'm hoping top 3 for Ghost Rider as he takes that narrow line, is across the line in
third.
Yeah, look at that. Third place, excellent lap for the Alpine man.
Yeah, like you said, it's not a track that particularly rubbers in. It's more confidence with this one.
Yeah, you just build up. I think it's there's a lot of tracks that are flow tracks. I'm thinking of places like Suzuka. I'm thinking of Zandvoort. For me, Brazil is exactly the same. Once you're into that flow, once you've got that kind of, yeah, I know where my apexes are, I'm confident about where I can put the power down, you can suddenly find 2-3 tenths, and that's what seems to cause the difference for the Frenchman at the end of the session.
Yeah, get a decent banker down, maybe a decent second lap, and then just go absolutely to the wall on the third one. When it's a do or die time, basically. Because you build that confidence. That's what I did with it. Had a decent banker, better middle run, and then my final run I just went absolutely everything.
Yeah, it's a track where it's easy to invalidate as well, isn't it? So maybe sometimes I think on those last runs you just give it all, don't you? It's like, I don't care if I invalidate, I have to know. I have to precisely know how quick my pace is. So.
Yeah, I don't care if I invalidate, if I find a wall, I am just going to give it everything.
Yeah.
There we go then. So our final qualifying of the season sees Night Shadow on pole. Melvin lines up alongside him in second, Ghost Rider third, Scratch fourth, Jackster fifth, Baldy sixth. So double Mercedes on the third row. Booth is in seventh, Mutsnuts in eighth, Jam in ninth, Red Car Rambo in 10th. Very good time on the mediums, that. Scottish Ninja 11th, Baby Hornet 12th, CBG Sambal 13th, Dumbest Hornet 14th, Smoggy Ghost 15th. Then we have the guys with no times, which are Connor in 16th, Single Track 17th, RFC Danny 18th, and Anton in 19th. Any predictions from you, Mr. Genie?
I think it is tough to look past Gav for the win today. I know it's boring because he's on pole, but he showed such pace in Tier 2 on Monday. That pace he's got in straight line as well is phenomenal. If he can break away from the DRS train and keep it, I think he'll be very tough to pass on this track.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a wet race, so that could completely change everything.
Good point. Who's our wet weather specialists? I can't think of anybody who's... I guess maybe you got to look for Ghost, who I know he's struggled in the wet, but he's set those practices up.
And we're right, it is wet.
Yeah.
Is this only into wet, though? It doesn't look like we've got massive monsoon puddles.
I'm going to guess inters. I mean, also you might see the odd person try and take the inters all the way to the end, because of course you don't need to do the mandatory tyre swap. Let's put a lot of different things into the mix right here.
Yeah, just lower them tyre pressures a bit and try and go to the end. If you're not already low anyway, which you tend to have to be on this game.
Yes, I'm going to guess inters. I can see the green walled tyres as they are in the Red Bull garage, but let's see as our grid loads up. Yeah, they're looking green to me.
Yeah, they're inters to me. Yep, all inters. So there is potential for it to go dries towards the end of the race, possibly.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Did we have... Is it in MRC-X where we had changeable weather? Was that wet? Did that start off dry and then go wet?
No, it started absolutely monsoon, went to inters, right, then dry.
Yeah.
Although so, Gav was pretty quick in that race, so maybe your prediction could hold up.
Well, if he's confident both in the wet and dry, then that's going to be quite the thing. And also, you never know with qualifying. If somebody's gone for a wet setup or one that favours, they might be starting a little lower down the grid than you think they should, but they can really make those places up in these conditions. It's going to be all about traction in that middle sector, seeing how those cars react, I think. I worry for anybody who's got used to the traction on F123 and now they're switching back to this on F122, because I think, particularly in the wet, the physics are like chalk and cheese, so we might see a few safety cars tonight as well.
Especially if you're a no traction runner.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've really...
If you were a medium traction runner on 22 and you've got no traction on 23, there's not a lot of difference. But if you were no traction on 22 and you've been on hammering it on 23, then rip.
Yep.
You are going to suffer.
That's the problem I had Monday night. Just the car going completely away from me. Like, why did you do that? And it's like, oh no, my muscle memory is already messed up. But see how the drivers go. We've got a nice grid forming here as they just start to settle into their positions.
Because that's the switch I'm doing. I'm going from medium to nothing. So it's not been awful on this game. in terms of the new one anyway. This game, I just couldn't get to grips with it.
It's tough. I don't think I'll be coming back with any nostalgia for F1 22, but let's not dwell on that. We've got one more race to go.
Certainly have. There we go. I think we're all lined up. I can hear the red lights coming on. I think we have 5, and we are gonna go racing for the final time. Gav's got a great start, so's Ghost Rider. And I see someone sneaking up on the inside of the Ferrari. I think that's B17.
Yeah,
are we all going to make it through the centre S's nicely? Oh, we've got a spin off in the middle. I think that's Scratch Charisma. Probably a little bit too much throttle in the wet conditions through the S's, or maybe a bit of contact. I guess we'll find out later. Have you seen anything?
I was on board with Melvin. I think that was the person who was behind Scratch. You just sort of get caught up in everything. Melvin was starting P2. I think he had a terrible start, and that seemed down in P4. Just seemed to get bogged down. But we've got a lot of drivers right at the back. Much Nuts and CB Samuel going side by side, but it looks as if the Alpine driver is up into 9th place. All fairly well behaved at the moment. Scratch, the only one losing out big time from the start.
Yeah, it's all looking fairly follow me leader at the moment. I mean, it's not the worst conditions in the world. It could be worse. They could be on the monsoon.
Yeah, it looks fairly, although it's damp and greasy, it's not that sort of torrential rain that can really catch you out. So maybe they're finding a little more stability than you thought. And remember, in these wet conditions, you can probably use a bit more ERS. So I wonder if we're going to see anybody decide to spend it very early as we head down to the first big race right now.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Red Cat Rambo will help us with that one. He does not like to leave any of it in that car. Unfortunately, we don't get the flashing lights to tell us. Yeah, because all the lights are flashing because of the rain. Oh, Baby Hornet and Jam going side by side through turn 3. Melvin's out. Oh, big crash.
Oh, goodness, there's more of them. There's chaos back there. It's like
wow. Baby Hornet as well.
Yeah.
That's 4 cars out from one incident.
That's got to be a safety car.
It is a safety car, full one.
Christ.
Wow.
So, I can give you my view on that because I think I saw the aftermath of it. Jackster and Melvin were side by side. I think they bumped wheels together and it both sort of speared them out to the opposite side, taking them out. And then of course you've got cars like Baby Hornet and Red Car Rambo just reacting to the debris at the back, and they just couldn't react in time, and they're spinning off into the walls, particularly if you're used to this new traction system on F1 22 or you're switching between them. So yeah, I think there were a lot of innocent parties back there just getting caught up, but that was a big one. It might take a couple of laps for the team to clear up that debris because there was an awful lot.
I suspect stewarding could be a little bit busy with that one because I think that's going to pop up, and there was a lot of penalties popped up from that as well.
Yeah,
which I'm sure people are going to want looking at, see if they can have them removed.
Let's see, what is the penalty situation? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, which yeah, tends to be like what, pit lane or sort of contact under a yellow flag.
I think a lot of it was contact following that big crash.
Yeah, it just seemed that nobody seemed to have it, and we've got a couple of people in the pits now as well. Look at those with 5 second penalties.
Yeah, Connor and Dumbest Hornet were in the right place at the right time. They've already pitted.
Yeah, so we've got Jam and CB Sambal and RFC Danny, yeah, all of those with 5 second penalties, all of them into the pits. The Aston Martin missing a front wing, the Williams driver missing a front wing, and there's also a new front wing for the Alfa Romeo driver, so yeah, they were clearly caught up in that incident as well. 4 cars out, 3 cars with damage. That was a big one.
Oh, it really was. It's a pity we've also lost Jackster and Melvin as well, because they were in the fight.
Yeah, so what does that open up for the rest of the championship? Does that mean that that's sort of, I think that's Mercedes' hopes of a
well, B17's still in, but
well, yeah, but they're 37 points behind.
Yeah, so that has essentially given the championship to Red Bull, and if Gav wins this race, he will take P2.
Ooh, okay.
Because Jackster isn't there to defend it, Melvin isn't there to defend it, and Rob Smith's not racing, so he's not here either.
Goodness me, and it was worth saying Gav had a lead of about 1.2 seconds, so he wasn't struggling under these greasy conditions at all. He seemed to be revelling in them. Maybe the only worry for him is these people who have gone on to an extra set of inters now, are they just going to take those to the end and they will have a slight advantage if Gav feels he needs to pit in the middle sector? I think there's still a lot of narrative in this race to go about when you pit and if you get off those inter tyres at all.
Yeah, I guess we'll wait and see what happens with the track conditions. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to clear up at the moment, but we know with this game it can change in minutes. 1 minute it's looking like monsoon, next minute is you dry.
Yeah, it can.
Visually, it needs to catch up a little bit, I think.
Yes, it does. A lot of things they could do on next gen. I know this is a cross-gen game, you can still play it on PS4, but I think I was talking to Martin a couple of weeks back, the rain and how it's represented is something I would really like to see improved as we go forward into the games. I'm just having a look at the YouTube comments here. Ryan Barber saying that he had no way to react to that, unfortunately, and I think that's fair. It was lap 2, just all those drivers close together, one person went and it was just chaos, as you see, 4 drivers out.
Well, hopefully Ant can catch up and we can get some racing going again soon. And our tier 1 driver always seems to be lurking at the back. He likes to just experiment with a few strategies. I've seen him do it all the way from tier 1 down to tier 3 and 4 and in MRC-X. You can never write him off, and fingers crossed if he catches up, he is getting there now. We can go racing. We can start bringing you some action. That's sometimes the problem with being racing tier 2. You are the first one up every week if you don't race X. So you can't race another tier to get practice.
Yes, correct.
Whereas some of the, like you say, Ant's testing things, but it's a bit too late for him really. But with safety car in, Gav is now the lead car. I wonder when he'll go.
Well, I'm going to have a look. Can I see what is... Take his telemetry away on my screen. He is going at 47 miles an hour, so it is a typical Gav start.
Well, that's actually quick for him.
Not quite 20.
I think he's gone.
And now
He managed to catch Ghost Rider napping as well. He's gained 4 tenths on him already. And B17's having a look at Ghost Rider into turn 1. Can he make that stick? He has! There's a late move on the brakes.
Yeah, excellent opportunistic move there, and that's brilliant, and that's going to put him into the path of Gav. Now he's got to chase the Aston Martin man.
B17 versus Night Shadow. That can be an interesting one. Mutsnuts is having a look at Ghost Rider as well on the way to turn 4. Backed out of it though, very sensibly on that one. I'm sure Mark Hodgson will tell us that that is not a good corner. It can be great for overtakes, but you have to get it done early.
Yes,
we don't want no Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton going 6 mile off the track.
You can't. You have to trust the other driver and make sure they're going to leave you the space and respect you, and make sure you're going to not be forced off track. But everybody seems to have made it through okay so far. The only person who's a bit far back, unfortunately, is CB Sandbar, who finds himself down in 15th place.
Well, it's his first time racing tier 3 for a while, I believe, so he's probably just trying to work his way back up to having no line.
Yeah.
But he can do it. He was a tier 3 driver. Unfortunately, it's a problem with a lot of people that go to tier 4 and then they go, "Oh, line's available, let's put it on."
Yeah, you've sort of got to wean yourself off these assists. You've got to stick with them and stick through the pain to make sure that you can get quicker.
It's one of them, even if I race tier 4, I don't put it back on.
Oh, I can't race with line at all now, it would put me off.
Oh
gosh, there's another big incident. Haas and the
single
Mercedes
track's
there.
out. Boothie's got no front wing, and we're on another safety car.
Yeah.
They were, I think, side by side on that straight as well, so I'm pretty sure we're going to see that one in the stewards.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know if single track was behind or they just didn't quite, they just ran out of road a little bit, but
I had the most awful camera angle as well.
I just saw bits of carbon fibre and brake boards smashing into a million pieces, so Yeah, it's a lot
Yeah,
frustrating.
it's like I was sat about 2 foot from the front wing. I had that view. So then I just saw carbon fibre.
So that's another one gone, another safety car of our original 19 drivers. 5 are out of this race, and we are only on lap 6. It's becoming a bit of a race of attrition.
It really is. While we're on a safety car, let's have a look at some facts about Brazil. Unfortunately, I've not prepared any safety car chat. My mistake.
I mean, we can make some up on the fly. Like, we've got a wet race here in Brazil. I think there's been a lot of quite famous races, hasn't there, in the wet, most notably Max Verstappen really coming into the scene in the Red Bull, showing everybody how it's done and how he's fast no matter what the weather. And of course there was that famous title battle where Sebastian Vettel spun first lap under very greasy conditions, but was able to rescue it and bring home, wasn't his first title, I believe, but it might have been his second or third, wasn't it, here at Brazil? So
I think it was his third, the 2012 one.
Yeah.
Because if I remember rightly, I believe Michael Schumacher gave him a bit of an easy pass as a departing.
Yeah, I mean the two of them firm they supported each other. And shout out to the relationship between Seb and Mick Schumacher. Very sorry that we don't have either of them on the grid this year, because the kind of pseudo father-son relationship they had, with Seb always willing to lend a hand to Mick, was it warmed the heart of this old cynical old man. So yeah, shame to lose them both.
Here we go then. So who do you think has the most wins as a driver at this track?
So I'll go Lewis Hamilton, because he's won a lot of races and it's always best to start with him.
It is not. He only has 3.
It's weird because Lewis Hamilton is, he kind of thinks of it as home, doesn't he?
Him and Vettel both have 3 here.
Who else? Okay, I'm going to say, because Senna always wanted to win here but never did. So
he did twice.
He did twice, but I'm going to say, ironically, it's going to be someone like Alain Prost who upset the apple cart the most.
Ding, ding, ding! It was Alain Prost with 6.
Blimey.
1982, 1984, 1985, 1987, 1988 and 1990. So majority of them were actually on the old layout. There was 26 corners.
Wow. Gosh, that's the equivalent of like Lewis Hamilton having the most wins at Zandvoort or Max Verstappen having the most wins at Silverstone, isn't it? Like, you can imagine, it seems the exact opposite of what the crowd want to win if you think of that rivalry between the two.
Which constructor do you think has most wins?
Gosh, Ferrari are very. Oh, well, sorry, if Prost has won the most, then I'll go Williams.
Unfortunately, not.
God, what is it?
It's McLaren.
McLaren. Oh gosh, I guess you've got the other car that Prost drove, the one he drove.
Yeah, he was in there a lot of the 80s though, wasn't he? So I think a lot of his wins came in the McLaren. But yeah, it's been held 50 times as this race.
It's a classic, isn't it? I'd never wanted to see it go off the calendar. It's always one that I look forward to, both in real life and in the game. Safety car in this lap, so fingers crossed we can go racing again. But
yeah, I did really look forward to it this week, because it seems to be one where I have a lot of pace. Hence why I volunteered to try Tier 1 for the first time.
It's just a nice track to drive. There are some you drive and you think, oh, this is horrible. This one always seems lovely, and it's nice to see so many people volunteering tonight.
He's gone early tonight, this time. Sorry,
on board.
He's not caught B17 napping though. He's sticking right with him and gaining a little bit. Could be he's draining the ERS. Maybe he's made very good friends with the ERS button and Red Car Rambo.
Yeah. Oh, big twitch there from the Aston Martin.
And through goes B17. Yeah, we finally got a through goes somebody moment. It's definitely no team orders at the Alpine though.
My! Oh. Mutt's nuts, missing his braking point a lot there as the two Alpines come together, and he's got into the side of Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider's out!
Oh my.
Is that just a yellow flag? Oh, the other... And Nuts is spinning like crazy on that uphill section. He's now enough front wing.
It's not going to help him at all, is it? He's going to be so slow and in ninth place. Those drivers behind him are going to want to get past him desperately. They don't want to lose too much time to the cars ahead.
You've heard of Tokyo Drift. This was Brazilian Drift. But we seem to be running. We don't seem to be getting a safety car. They've still not cleared that Alpine though. Oh, there we go. It's gone. And the yellow flag's gone. So go for it, boys. Just please keep it clean. We're getting a lot of reports tonight. And I was really hoping if it was quiet I was going to try and maybe release who's going to what tier ready for the team reveals tomorrow night.
Would be nice. Well, you just have to be like the headmaster telling everybody that no, you've had some naughty schoolboys in tier 3 who have ruined it for everyone, but fingers crossed we can get through it. We don't get that many reports on the last day of the season, but yeah, a lot happening. I was on board with Nuts at the time. It looked like he just missed his braking point. He was really late on the brakes next to the Alpine driver, and Gav was also there, and he just seemed to cut across both of them. And then when he was coming back on track, I think his other Alpine driver had been disturbed a little bit as well. Unfortunate contact, and yeah, he's down to a field of 13 now.
Yeah, it's not really the corner to try it. Oh, B17's in the wall!
Yeah, where's he lost it? That's a really odd place to lose it.
Left-hander in the middle section. It can be very tricky on traction, can that one?
And no front wing as well, so he will have to pit. Gosh, he was doing so well up in first place, but he's going to find himself right at the back of the grid.
This is just pandemonium tonight. You can't to look. Everybody wants to win it, and then they throw it away.
It is. Tell you who is playing into the hands of. Who's that man who said he'd start at the back of grid and want to go to the first place? Connor, look where he is now.
He's in P3.
Yeah, very impressive.
I mean, luck has got to have played a part in this.
I mean, it has all sort of fallen his way, but he is the driver who's gone up the most places. 13 on the grid so far. Dennis Hornet up 10. RFC Danny up 12. And up 11, so they are the big winners so far. Even Scottish Ninja up 9. You'd be hard pressed to find a driver that's lost many places. The big two losers at the moment, unfortunately, those two with front wing damage after the safety car, B17 and Nuts.
I mean, if we lose many more, everybody's going to score points, even with the demotions for higher tiers.
Yeah, it's a bit of a battle royale out there. These conditions proving to be very, very tricky.
And if I'm correct, I think Dummist Hornet and Connor will be in a party together, so Dummist will be trying to keep Connor calm. Because he was in the party last week when I raced with Connor. Trying to keep him calm and just stop him losing his head.
Can you keep Connor calm? Is that possible?
I tell you what, Chris did a very good job of it.
That's excellent.
It's like Gav does a really good job of keeping Hodgie calm as well. Because he's been so stressed the last couple of races. It's like, I can't cope with this, I'm trying to drive.
That's why I can't be in any of those groups, because I just wind people up all the time. So that would be terrible for me. I would be banned from those parties. I'm trying to see where the main battles are. Dummist Hornet 0.4 behind Connor. Well, as you said, those two might be working together a little bit if they are in the same party. Scottish Ninja, impressive for him. He's not letting Gav escape up the road, is he?
He's not. He's really been practicing this no assists. Well, no line anyway. Because you don't get the sat-nav in tier 3.
No, you don't, but he seems to be putting Gav under a little bit of pressure now. You can see how quickly he's catching in the corners, and as I said, it was almost question about Gav's setup. I know he's very quick in a straight line, but was he going to be able to hang around these corners in this tricky middle sector? There seems to be a bit of a train forming behind the Aston Martin man.
We know Gav, he'll defend. He won't let it go easily, that's for sure. It is hats off to Scottish Ninja. He really puts the hours in. I've given him pointers here and there, but I've never had to do a lot with him.
Well, that's good. Are you the driver coach for him then? Or
yeah, I think it's a bit of a safety blanket for him more than anything. Yeah. If he's struggling with something, he comes to me and goes, what do I do about this? Or does this strategy sound okay? But I've only ever really had to do one session with him. We did one session to try and teach him no line round Baku last season or whenever we last did it. Within the hour session, he'd gone from about 5 seconds off the pace to half a tenth.
It's impressive, and he's being very impressive with Gav tonight. Again, you can see that gap goes up to about 0.6 seconds, and then by the time you're through this middle sector, he's all up the gearbox. And he doesn't want to let Gav escape up the road. You could throw a blanket over these top 5 as well, all very well behaved.
Yeah, we seem to have settled now, and we're actually getting some racing, which is great. Burt Mylander can stay in the pit lane.
Yeah, that gap between Connor and Dumas Hornet opening up a little bit. He did have a little bit of a twitch. I wonder, Jam's looking quite racy. That's the person who I think could be the pass on track, but Scottish Ninja just 0.2. Is he spending some of his ERS? Is now the time that he wants to get Gav down the straight?
I think he'll be trying it, but like we know Gav is not going to be high on wings.
No, he's not.
Although I know what he was running in Tier 2, and it wasn't much less than what I was running, surprisingly.
Okay.
So it wasn't awful, because I think my setup for this is quite high wings. So maybe he's stuck with it. He might have added a little bit on for the wet race. That's the thing, we don't know what they're going to be running with it being wet.
Yeah, we'll see. He seems to be doing okay. I think the one thing Gav had, particularly on the Monday, was consistency. No spins, no big incidents, and that's what you need if you're going to be successful tonight, particularly in these conditions. It continues to spit down there, not very heavy, but enough to keep that greasy line on track. And I wonder if we are going to go all the way. These top 2, remember, not pitted yet. Those drivers behind have got 1 lap fresher tyres. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be a big difference come the end of the race, but it is a difference.
Well, it could be the difference between being very, very Larry and just very Larry.
All going to be come the end.
I mean, at least it's not Silverstone with these conditions.
Yes, it's always a bit tricky for them.
If it was, it should be me and you on track.
Yes, sort of like dashing through cops, but might have a moment down into the centre S's. It's all about getting traction out of here and a good exit. Gav seems to have that. Look at him, sort of, is going to pull away slightly. That gap staying fairly steady between the two. Actually, maybe Scottish Ninja making up a bit of time, but it's not going to be enough. He doesn't quite have the gap to do anything in turn 4.
And I've just had a quick look. Surprisingly, Scottish Ninja isn't empty on ERS.
No, he's managing it quite well.
He's got a bit less than Gav, but it's not a massive difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to leave it on screen too long, but because we like to keep it as clear as possible if we can. We want to see the action, not all the details on the screen all the time.
Yep. This top 5, though, really is a fascinating battle between them all. Very well behaved, all line astern. None of them making any big moves, just sort of waiting for the driver in front to make a mistake, because in these conditions it's so easy to have just like a little rear end twitch, a little loss of traction, and that will be your opportunity to get through.
Yeah, all it takes is one minor little twitch and they're on you. I mean, that was a funny moment from Tier 1 when I was battling Sabia. He overtook me into turn 1 and then he lost it through turn 2. So he basically just give me the position straight back.
Yep. Like, oh, thank you very much. Just pass that to me. Free ticket. Connor, now that gap between him and Scottish Ninja up to a second. Of course, no DRS at the moment, but it does show that maybe he's struggling to keep up with the top 2. Thomas Hornet now looking very racy behind the our Tier 3 champion.
I think he needs to be, because he's got the returning Jam absolutely crawling all over him. I mean, it's good to see him back, and he's clearly come back very racy.
Yeah, it is. It's always nice to have drivers come back, be able to devote the time to the league and have a little practice. Obviously, of course, F1 23 just around the corner. We'll have our last race in just about an hour's time, at least, just under that. Once these guys are finished, hopefully give it a good send-off, as these Tier 3 drivers are doing at the moment.
Certainly are. I mean, I'll be giving it a good send-off after this race. It'll be called bye-bye in the bin.
Yes, I will be deleting it fairly quickly, celebrating my new hardware space, I'll be able to download 1/20th of the new Call of Duty patch. Gav going purple, Scottish Ninja going purple. Do you reckon that track is just starting to dry a little bit now? Look at all those purple times flashing up.
It's definitely getting faster.
Either the drivers have got more confident or there is grip coming in. And the next thing you've got to watch out for, it does look like the rain's still coming down, but it is that message that DRS is available. That will be the next thing, I think, which will signal these drivers might want to get off this tyre and onto another set.
I think we need to get another couple of seconds off the lap times before we'll get that. So we're still in like the 118s.
Yeah, and what dry around here is what we saw at qualifying 108, so maybe in the race you put an extra second or two on there.
Yeah, I think the fastest laps were coming in the 109s in tier 1 and 2. So I'd expect high 109s, maybe low 110s.
Yeah, so.
Depending on the tyres you're on. I mean, intermediates I wouldn't expect more than a 114-ish.
Yeah, we are quite far away from that at the moment. I think it might just be a bit of a... Is anybody from the back going to risk it? Is anybody going to think, right, now's the time for softs? Because you can go far too early, and when you're on softs in this game and it's wet, it is absolutely no fun at all.
No, I've found with 2021 you actually got away with that a bit easier. This game, it's forget it.
Yeah.
You may as well just put yourself in a wall. Well, actually, wait, you don't need to, because the game will do it for you.
Yes.
It will just give you a random loss of traction, and all of a sudden you'll spearhead into the wall. You'll do a Grosjean.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah, so many times, miserable game, get in the bin, but somebody who won't want this game to get in the bin as it stands is Night Shadow, who is seems to be consolidating his lead up to 0.9 seconds. I saw Scottish Ninja go very deep into turn 1. He's got a little bit of a job to do if he's going to catch up with the man in
penalty update. Scottish Ninja has 10 seconds. Oh,
Yeah,
I think that was all the contacts though, so he may possibly get them removed.
Yeah, he has had that from the start since that big incident we saw on lap 2. There's a lot. I think if you're looking at them and they're divisible by 5, we might be seeing them off if you've got those 3 seconds like Connor, like Dennis Hornet, like Jam. Those are all sort of track limit penalties. They'll be the ones kicking themselves at the moment because they're out of contention for the race win as it stands for these two up top.
So, quick look up. Let's check position changes. I know we're 6 people missing, but so the biggest on-track loser at the moment is B17, which is gutting because he had a really good start and then that really unlucky moment. The biggest winner is Connor.
Ooh, but talking about Connor, look at that. He's just him and Dennis Hornet are going side by side into turn 4. I don't know if Dennis Hornet has had to pull out of that one. That leaves Jam on the outside. Goodness me, you're brave, boys.
Certainly are. The yellow flag in sector 3, I can't really see anything for it.
Gosh, all a bit of chaos, and somehow everybody's ended up in exactly the same positions that they started. I wonder if Dennis Hornet didn't really want to pass the Red Bull man. It seemed like he might have had the opportunity, but they're happy to just fall back into that train.
Yeah, I don't think he was trying to send it, I think he was trying to defend.
Yeah.
Because Jam is very, very racy on his rear end. It could be potentially locked up and slid as well. Because I think Dumbest Hornet is a no assist runner, if I recall correctly.
Yes, that would make sense.
So the infamous wet lockups. That's the place I'm struggling the most with the no ABS, is the wet.
Scottish Ninja going very deep.
He did, and that's just let Connor through. Is Dumbest Hornet going to follow suit?
Very good place to make the overtake. He's tucked
got the
right
run.
to the gearbox.
Has he got the straight line speed? No, he hasn't. He's going to have to sit behind.
I think Scottish Ninja was very clever there. Tucked himself in behind Connor and said, right, I'm going to use your slipstream instead. And that seemed to be enough to put Dennis Hornet off, who was still thinking about it, but very sensibly backed away. But Scottish Ninja was just pushing and pushing, and I think he pushed that one bit too hard, and he seems to be going a little deep. These tyres, 18 laps old, I think these Inter-runners, if they might have to think about pitting sooner rather than later, because they seem to be struggling a little bit now.
Yeah, we've only got we're Connor's on 18, Dumbest Hornet's on 18, Jam's on 17, RFC Danny and Anton are also on 17, Boothie's on 13, Mutsnuts 10, B17's got the best tyres at 9 laps. He will be sat there going, please all pit, please all pit, please all pit. He's only 6 seconds behind. But that's behind Smoggy Ghost and Mutsnuts, and then your gap is to Boothie. So he's going to be praying they all pit to bring him back in contention.
I think one person who won't dream of pitting unless there's a safety car is Gav. Gav's one of the most famous races I remember with him is around Spain, but he was one of about 2 people who decided not to pit in a fully wet race on the Inters. He took them all the way to the end and there was a huge train behind him and he brought it home in 3rd place. Mental drive, absolutely incredible, and yeah, I know that he can do it. He's not afraid to push those tyres right to the limit.
No, he's always one for a bold strategy. He'll always sat here screaming, going, pit, 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 pit. Nope, my tyres are fine.
Yeah.
I can keep going. And then the tyres bite him in the bum and he just spins off.
Exactly, they are fine until all of a sudden they are not, and that can happen in this game. They can go very red very quickly. B17 there with a purple lap, 118, so yeah, maybe getting dry.
They're coming down a little bit, another couple of seconds and we may get the DRS activated, because we're not going to get peak times out of these tyres. They've been running them for a lot of laps now.
Yeah, and most crucially, when I go on board with these drivers, the rain is still coming down. You need it to stop if you're going to ever think about this switching to dries. Scottish Ninja and Connor might be thinking about it. They was looking very racy behind the Red Bull there. It slows it down.
Dumbest Hornet, 1:18.0. That's a lap.
That is quick. Purple in all 3 sectors, it seems to show there. So, quite the lap to go on. These 2, 2nd and 3rd, Connor and Scottish Ninja, fighting away, but I think it only helps Gav up front, really.
It does, because you always say the person in front wants the people behind to battle. Because when you're defending, you're not concentrating on what's going on in front, you're going slower.
Correct, you're just losing those crucial tenths, aren't you? You're not taking the racing line, you're being as defensive as possible.
Although Connor's not losing time at the moment, he's actually gaining.
Yeah.
So maybe he's gone for the alternative of, I'm not going to defend you, I'm just going to put my foot down.
Well, as I've said, I did wonder how Gav's very good on the straight. I do wonder how he's coping in those middle sectors. He lost a boatload of time there. He was a second up, and then he seemed to lose it down to 0.6. And now look on the straight again. He's just pulling away from Connor. So clearly, I think we've got 2 very different setups on these cars in 1st and 2nd place.
I think we have, yeah. I'm guessing Gav's running a little bit lower, as always. He's taking the tier 1 approach. Well, we're going to run lower wings, we're going to be fast in a straight line, and we're somehow going to make it round the corners.
Yeah, well, if you can make it round the corners, it's absolutely fine, and it is sensible, because it's easier to defend on a straight than it is yeah, sort of you can defend in the corners no problem, even if you can't get it slow, because you can park it on the apex. There's no apex on a straight, so you just want to be as speedy in a fast line as possible. I'm just going to keep my eye on that delta. Look, was up past a second, now down under half a second. Well, it's going to have to make a move through this middle sector, but it is so difficult to get your car side by side.
It's not really the widest of tracks either for making a move.
No, there's a very specific line you have to take through that middle sector. You've got to really get a good exit on one of the straights if you want to put anybody under pressure, and that's just simply not happening at the moment.
Gav's getting very, very twitchy as well on that downhill left-hander. I've just been on board with him and he got really twitchy there, which lost him a chunk of time.
Yeah, well, we're on lap 24, of course. These tyres, they're not getting any better. They're not going to get any better anytime soon.
They are going to keep getting worse, unfortunately.
Oh, look at that twitch! Gav's lost a ton of time.
Over half a second that time.
Yeah.
Why does that move away from him when we get action?
Well, that's fine, but yeah, maybe that sets up Connor. Is he going to make a move now? He has to do something, I think, in this middle sector, or Gav will get away, but half a second seems to be enough.
It does, because I can see from his steering wheel Gav is conserving energy quite a bit, so he just uses it on the straight to defend. And the times are still coming down, 17.7 from Nuts.
Ooh, that's what we said. We said it's the first one under 17, isn't it now? It was at about 118.9.
And he's on 14 lap inters, so not as old as the guys at the front, but not brand new either. Definitely well worn in. Is this where Connor can get a run? He's definitely drained a lot more of his ERS, I can see from his steering wheel.
I think Connor smells blood at the moment. He's seeing a very twitchy Aston Martin in front of him and says, I just need to keep applying the pressure and maybe another mistake will come. Maybe there'll be another twitch. Let's stick on board with Gav. See if there's any little twitch like happened. He's not, but a bit more tentative on the throttle maybe, but yeah, he's still got enough.
It's just going to be a battle of wills, this. Who can make the tyres go the longest?
At the moment, what's really interesting though is it seems everybody's got a very standard pattern. Although I've said that Gavin might be causing a bit of a train behind him, we're not seeing people like Scratch or RFC Danny really join the end of this train. They've got about 10 laps, but oh goodness me, Scottish Ninja's gone very wide there, and I thought that was going to open it up for Dumbest Hornet.
It certainly could. Problem is, in the wet you don't want to risk making a move down the inside.
No, you just can't, can you? Because you'll get slightly off. It will be a slightly greasier line, even if it's not off the racing. And on these tyres, everybody looks like they're hanging on for dear life. At the moment, as Dumbest Hornet has a big moment.
Which has let Jam through. It'll be absolutely... Dumbest Hornet will be kicking himself. Jam will be cheering because he'll be fed up of seeing the back of that Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
And that gap at the front has grown massively. It's up to 1.5 seconds nearly. So Connor's not had the best lap either.
Yeah, I wonder how much traction is starting to play a part here. You said Dumbest Hornet runs, no assists. That just looked like the car, again, that's what F122 does to you. Just gives way at you at the weirdest times, and a little bit too much on the loud pedal, and he was gone. So yeah, down to 6th place. Bad luck there, because you had a terrific race up to that point.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it a lot of times with Kid Dynamite. Quite arguably one of the best drivers in the league, and he has such random snaps and spins, it's unreal.
Oh, Connor with 3 seconds of time penalty there. I think he already had 3.
That puts him up to 6, which gives Gav a nice little buffer now, because he knows if he gets past he's only got to stay within 6 seconds.
Yes, doesn't it? Yeah,
but he's a racer, he wants to win it on the track.
Oh, precisely, yeah, you don't want to leave anything to chance, you don't want to lose it just because of penalties. Not the way anybody wants to have it done.
No, you always want to win on track if you can. I know they say a win's a win, but it's more special if you take it on the track.
Right, okay, so this is my take on the situation, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm looking at the track now, I can't see any rain coming down. That track is drying. We've got 10 laps. Are these drivers thinking, can they take these inters to the end? Or is it going to be a little dash for softs right at the end of this race? What would you do in this position?
I'd give it maybe another lap. See if one of the back markers jumps in first. Because if you're in Gav's position, you don't want to risk it. Maybe someone like... I mean, in terms of Connor, he's probably going to be begging maybe Dumbest Hornet to have a go first.
Yeah.
Because he's quite a chunk back off the pack now. He's 6 seconds back off Scratch. He gets demoted at the end anyway. He's not a lot to lose because it's not his tier.
But you're in...
You need some guinea pigs, don't you, really?
You do. You don't want to take the risk out front, but I think the problem at the moment these drivers have is those tyres are rubbish anyway. It'd be rubbish if it was full into weather anyway, but as the track dries out, your tyres are going to wear even quicker, right?
I mean, I agree, I don't see any rain.
Yeah, you just don't want to... At the moment, if you're an Inters ready, you're praying for rain. You want your tyres to last as long as possible, and the drier it gets, the more risk you run of suddenly one of those tyres going pop and it having a very bad end to your race.
I see Danny and Boothie are side by side down the main straight.
Yes,
who's going to come out
are.
ahead into turn 1? Dumbest Hornet has pitted.
Oh, Wonder if
See
he's
what
going
he
to
jumps for. I've just brought tyres up so we can have a quick look. So I'm going to stay on board with this RFC Danny battle. I think RFC Danny has got the better of Boothie at this point. Mediums for dumbest.
Ooh.
So I think your prediction of it's looking like dries is about right.
Yeah, he's looking a bit twitchy just coming out of the pit lane. It's a very challenging pit lane to get out of, so maybe he's going, no, it is too early for those tyres at the moment. Of course, he's running no assist as well, so he will really be feeling it under traction. I'll just keep an eye on his lap times and see what happens once we get to about lap 30.
Yeah, I think by lap 30 we'll have our answer. And if he happens to pop in a fastest lap, we know it's definitely dry enough. But the front guys are going to be waiting for this. They are not going to pit unless it's ready. Because you don't want to risk losing that. Gav and Connor especially can't risk it.
Gav's had a big moment there.
Connor's right on him.
He was closing, but Gav was sort of parked in the middle of the apex. He couldn't get past. And look at the train behind now, all the way back to 4.
These tyres are just not holding up. But Dumbest Hornets had a moment in the middle sector. So the middle sector's clearly not ready yet.
Yeah, it doesn't look very fun on those mediums either. So, hey, maybe the solution is just another pair of inters if you're really struggling. But that's still, the pit stop is probably going to be not worth it yet, is it? You want to risk it and stay out. But boy, are they going to be pushing these tyres right to the limit.
Yeah, because if you're one of the top runners, you're going to come out in about 8th position if you pit now.
Correct.
You don't want to lose that much time. I know you're going to have the pace on the newer tyres, but it's always harder to overtake in the wet. It's not really worth the risk unless your tyres are about to explode. Dumbest Hornet's out.
Yeah, I think he's
just seen the weirdest moment from him on Gav's screen, and we have a safety car, full one.
Okay, now this is
contact. Connor's just gone into the back of Night Shadow.
Is that damage? That's damage to there's no front wing on that Aston Martin.
Yep, he got a push up the bum from Connor and it put him into the wall on the right hand side.
Blimey, so that forces the pit, but I wonder what we're going to see, because the safety car is going to slow it down, right? But the weather doesn't slow at all. That's going to keep on going. So if it's only going to get drier, what do? Do you pit for another set of inters? Do you pit for a pair of softs? Do you stick out? A lot for our drivers to consider. And I think Gav only has one option, doesn't he? He has to pit, because there's no point in trying to soldier on without a front wing.
Probably going to come out 6th maybe, because RFC, Danny, Boothie and Mutsnuts are now in the pits.
Yeah, so
he's
just
exiting the pits, so he won't lose out to them. I think he'll possibly lose out to Anton with the wing change and the fact he's stuck behind the safety car at the moment.
Yeah, the big advantage he's going to have as well is there's no penalties for Night Shadow at the moment. So if he comes out in 6th, he loses a position to Scratch, and that's it, isn't it? Everybody else in front has those penalties. So it's not as big a risk as you might think.
Although he's got to factor in that maybe Scottish Ninja could have his removed. Jam's clearly got at least one that is 5 seconds. Because he's on 11, so that's a 5 and 2 threes by the looks of it.
Yeah.
The Gav has pitted, everybody else seems to be staying out.
Just having a look at the two medium rows at the moment, RFC Danny and Mutsnuts. It don't look very fun out there on slicks at the moment. I think it is still Inters weather, but you might want a fresh pair of Inters. That, I think,
that is what Gav's going for, fresh pair of Inters. Yeah. Anton's in the pit lane, so he won't even lose out to Anton. So he's going to come out behind Scratch Charisma by the looks of it. Yeah. He'd be right on the back of Scratch, Jam, Scottish and Connor. Like you say, Scratch is the only one he really needs to get past in terms of penalties.
Yeah, Scottish Ninja could have his removed, isn't he? Because his Scottish Ninja on 10.
He is, so, yeah.
Yeah, those might be removed because of the big incident we saw at the start of the race.
And Jam could potentially have 5. I think he got caught up in that incident as well.
If you're thinking about tyre difference round here as well, you're thinking I'm sorry to bring it up, but there was a little race that happened towards the end of 2021. I don't know if you remember it, Abu Dhabi. There was a bit of a tyre difference between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. I think we could see that kind of situation. You saw how those Inters were hanging on for dear life towards the end. Gav might be be seriously quick on a fresh track.
To be honest, I thought you were going to use the 2008 Timo Glock Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, that's also very true. I think that's probably more appropriate, isn't it, given where we are?
Yep, it's controversial, but less controversial, let's say.
Yeah, and I think the proof in the pudding there, I think RFC Danny went onto a pair of mediums, he's gone back into the pits and has put on a pair of inters, so clearly I think anybody on dries still, that's not staying out there, it still doesn't look very fun. Look how much he's sliding around under this safety car. It's just simply not working on any slick tyre.
And he's in the wall with no front wing again.
Yep.
Get back in the pits, get a fresh wing, get a fresh set of inters. The dries are not working. And by the time they do work, you're going to be 30-40 seconds off. And that's if you're lucky.
I think we're in for an absolute barn burner at the end here. You've got very quick drivers, Night Shadow, Ant, Boothie, RFC Danny. The pack's going to be bunched up and they're going to be held up by 4 drivers on extremely old tyres. And I don't reckon we're going to have very many racing laps. We're going to take it all the way down to about lap 33, lap 34. We could see a mad 3-lap dash right at the end here.
We really could. Mutsnuts has just made it to the pit lane. Smoggy Ghost caught up in the pack, so Sambal. So it'll be waiting on B17 and Mutsnuts catching the pack.
Sometimes towards the end, doesn't it, the safety car just says, I've had enough of this, let's go racing.
I mean, it will come in at the end of lap 34 regardless of what's happening.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're 40 seconds behind, it's still coming in at that point. Because the game's programmed to always give us 2 racing laps. And it's in this lap.
Yeah, so Mutsnuts, I'm afraid, and who's that in the Mercedes?
B17.
Yeah, a bit screwed at the moment, unfortunately.
B17 will at least get somewhere, depending on Connor's restart, but he really needs to get his foot down right now. Go up to the front. Connor's still playing warm-up at the moment, which is really helping B17.
Do you want heat in those tyres though? Do you want them at all? I would be trying to conserve them. They're going to start.
Here comes B17, he's pretty much on the pack as we go racing again. That's worked out perfectly for him, and his tyres will be hot compared to everybody else. Let's have a look a little bit further back. Everyone's getting through the centre S's alright by the looks of it. Smoggy Ghost trying to stay out of everybody's way, which is really good to see.
Connor's got a really good lead on Scottish Ninja, but I'm going to keep my eye on Gav. Gav has got, what, 4 laps to make something happen now?
Yeah, I think he's going to take it a bit cautious this lap, get his tyres into play and let people just slide a little bit.
RFC Danny and Boothie side by side, but I think it's the Aston Martin who's just come out on top. All of these people on nice fresh set of inters. And yeah, as we can see at the top, Connor's pulling away, but nobody else on those very old inters really making them fire up quite yet.
I think Night Shadow's starting to get them fired up though, because it's all over the back of Scratch, almost side by side.
Thinks better of it. I think he's going to say, yep, I know I've got both the traction on the straight and probably the straight line speed, and now's the time to spend your ERS. I think everybody will though. Problem Gav has. Gav's got 3-second time penalty.
Oh, that's not done him any favours at all. But he's taken Scratch on the inside into turn 1.
See the difference in traction there. His just brakes were far better to work than the AlphaTauri driver, so he's up into 4th place. Still got 3 places to make up there if he wants to get first on track.
I thought Scratch was going to have a look back at him. Jam's got Scottish Ninja.
He has, and he's looking very racy, isn't he? These people, I thought there might be...
Booth is out!
Booth is out, that's a big one, and he seems to have connected with Smoggy Ghost, I think.
It's Anton.
Oh, it's Ant, is it? Oh no, the other Williams driver. Sorry,
Ant's just recovering.
To me. big incident that they were all together. Everybody getting very dicey, very fighty now. Gav is all over the back of Scottish Ninja, and I think he's got him.
He has. Oh. Although we are yellow flag in Sector 2, we probably may have to give that back.
Boothie is... That's caused by Boothie. I don't think he's got any damage. I think he was out of where all the big action was happening.
Nope, it's let Gav keep it, and he's now chasing Jam like an... Is he going to go for it into the inside at turn 1? He is! What a move!
Yeah, you just look at that difference in traction though. He's so much more confident on the brakes. He knows he's got way more tyre. 2 laps, 1 position, and 1 very stranded Red Bull. And look at that, Connor says, no, I'm not even going to fight it. Moves out of the way.
Unfortunately, that's just let Jam through at the same time though.
It has.
Penalties. He'll get Jam back on penalties though. Connor's got 6, right. Jam's got 11.
Maybe that's the equation that he had in his head. He seems to be really fighting that car. All of those who decided not to pit under the safety car look very slow in comparison to the others who decided to.
I mean, B17 that was miles off the back of the pack is up to 6th. And on the back of Scratch Charisma, we could see some moves from him for decent positions yet.
Oh, yeah, he gets a little bump up the backside from the Aston Martin driver, and oh no, he's just lost it under traction. Unfortunately, B17 coming out of that final corner.
That's unfortunate. He's not dropped back too much though, so he can still make moves yet.
Yeah, I think RFC Danny went wide as well, so that's all sort of as you were, but a little bit more of a gap in between. Look at the gap that Gav's pulling out front now, up to 1.5 seconds, and that was over half a lap coming in for those new inters. You know, he lost his front wing, but I think it's actually benefited him being forced into the pits.
I think he just wants to make sure that he doesn't get affected by, obviously, Scratch Charisma, because he has no penalties at all anyway. Scottish Ninja's now kind of out of the equation, even if he gets his 10 seconds removed. But he just wants to make sure if anybody gets penalties removed, he's not affected by it.
Yep.
But they're all sitting penalties, so they'll drop them anyway. They're only going to gain back what they lose.
It's a purple lap from Mutts Nuts. There's only 10 cars left in this race, so that will be the fastest lap point if it stays on board. Down to the 116 now, so that track is drying out.
And points for everybody as well.
Exciting race, but it does look as Gav comes into one of the final left-hand corners. It's been quite the race. I think it was. I was worried for him when that safety car came out right at the end, but boy has he made it work with those fresh inters.
It certainly has. He's coming around the final curve now, and he's going to take the checkered flag. And I believe P2 in the championship on count back.
Yeah.
And let them all shuffle around and sort the penalties out now. I think it's Scratch in 2nd, Connor in 3rd, B17 gets 4th. Anton's come across the line 5th, but will drop 4 positions. Jam 6th, Scottish Ninja 7th. RFC Danny's going to come through 8th, but I don't know if he'll lose out to Mutts Nuts or not. They're nearly at the line now, so we'll find out in a minute. Smoggy Ghost is P10 because he was lapped. So that's Danny across the line, and he does lose out to Mutts Nuts. So it's Mutts Nuts 8th and Danny 9th. And I think Mutts Nuts had the fastest lap as well, if I recall you saying it right.
Yeah, that is true, yeah.
The game's given Connor the driver of the day.
Well, I think it was a very good race from him from the back of the pack, and he didn't really put much of a foot wrong, apart, unfortunately, for the penalties that he acquired just going through. If he'd been able to keep out those penalties, and maybe if he'd been brave enough to go for the pit stop, I know Gav was forced into it at the end, he could be up there. But also a tremendous race from the Aston Martin driver, pole sitter and our race winner. Excellent drive from the Scotsman.
Certainly was. Showed his mettle today. I think he's shown why he shouldn't be in tier 3, he should be in tier 2 really.
Well, we'll get to hear the case for the defence, I'm sure, in your DMs later.
Oh, I'm sure I'll get a case for the defence on that one. But no, I'm too slow, I should be tier 4, I crash a lot.
Yeah.
Because he did start the season with a lot of DNFs, but then he's pulled it back good at the end.
Yeah.
So there we go, confirmation of provisional results, obviously, because we've got stewarding inquiries to go through first. That's Night Shadow, Scratch Charisma, Connor, B17, Anton, Jam, Scottish Ninja, Mutts Nuts, RFC Danny and Smoggy Ghost. And the 10 DNFs were Boothy, CBG Sambol, Dumbest Hornet, Ghost Rider, Single Trap, Baby Hornet, Red Car Rambo, Jackster and Melvin. I suspect stewarding could take a little while tonight.
It's unfortunate. It was a hectic race, wasn't it? But fingers crossed we can all work it out in the shuffle. And well done. I think well done to our race winner, because if there's anybody who won't have much to bring up in the stewarding, it'll be him, because it was pretty much flawless race from start to finish. So well done.
Yep. Hopefully we'll may have to delay the results till Friday actually, because of the stream tomorrow to announce everybody's new cars for the new season.
I'm excited. Bring it on. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a very quick turnaround between seasons this time, so it's going to be all systems go. I think it's practice at 7, and then the stream is at 8:30.
Blimey. Well, we'll see how we go, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure everybody wants to know what car they're in, where they're settling in the new game, and it's nice to get started in the game like a week after it's been out. I think this is the quickest we've ever had a turnaround on a new game, so yeah, good to get excited. The season reset, that's what I'm always looking forward to.
Yep, it's always fun. But if you want to watch our final race on F1 2022, join back in 20 minutes and Connor and Baby Hornet will guide you through the Tier 4 race. But for Tier 3, that is the season done. For myself and I'm sure Rob, we're going to check out now and probably go delete the game.
Too right, I'll never see you again on this game. Take care everyone, see you on F1 23.
Good night.